The wind in the Wyoming territory did not just blow. It cut like a blade. It carried dust that stung the eyes and filled the air with a brown haze. Spring had arrived on the calendar, but winter still ruled the land. Snow sat heavy in the gullies, and the grass fought to rise through the cold ground. Luke Carver stood alone on his ranch, tightening a wire fence under the gray sky. He was a hard man shaped by harder years. His left shoulder ached from an old bullet wound, and each pull of the wire sent a sharp fire up his arm. He worked anyway. Working was the only thing that quieted his thoughts. His land was rough and lonely, but it was his. A few thin cattle grazed near the creek, fighting to survive the long winter. Luke lived the same way. He spoke to no one unless he had to, and when he rode into the nearest town, folks looked at him like trouble. They whispered about the man who had killed a gunman in the street. Even if the law had called it self-defense, the stain never washed away. Luke didn't mind the silence. He had lost too much already. His brother had been shot by a rich rancher's foreman, and the sheriff had called it justice. Luke never forgot. He learned that men with money could twist the law any way they pleased, and men like him had to survive on their own. 30 miles away, a stagecoach rattled across the rough road toward Bitter Creek. Inside sat Clara Hale, gripping a small trunk in her lap as the wheels bounced over every rock. She wore a blue dress that had once been fine, but long travel had worn it thin. Her eyes stayed fixed on the empty land outside the window. The size of the country terrified her, yet it also felt like freedom she had never known. The other passengers whispered. They judged her. A woman alone, no ring on her finger, and a trunk that held everything she owned. Clara heard their words, even when they tried to hide them. The Hale girl. The one who lived with Preston Ward. They called her fallen. They called her stolen. They didn't know the truth. Her father had lost everything to cards, and Preston Ward, a powerful rancher, had bought the debt. He bought her too. Clara had spent 2 years trapped in his house, living under his threats and his hands, trying to protect a father who still died drunk and cold in a snowbank. When she found the letter Ward hid from her, something inside her broke. She ran with only her mother's locket and enough money to buy a stage ticket. She knew Ward would hunt her. He hated losing property. The coach hit a deep rut. Clara slammed into the wall, gasping. A moment later came a crack, the sharp, unmistakable sound of a rifle. The horses screamed. The coach swerved. "Get down!" someone shouted. "Another shot!" The heavy-set man across from Clara jerked back, a red hole blooming in his forehead. Clara screamed as the coach flipped, wood splintering, dust exploding through the air. She felt pain slice through her leg, and then she was trapped under broken seats, the world spinning. Voices came from outside. Rough voices. Dangerous voices. Ward said no witnesses. "Check the girl. If she can walk, bring her back. If not, take the head." Clara's heart slammed against her ribs. She tried to free her leg, but pain shot through her body, sharp and tearing. She froze when the door above her was yanked open. A man peered in with cruel eyes and a dirty bandana over his face. "There she is," he said, "trapped like a rabbit." He grabbed her arm and yanked hard. Clara's hand closed around a broken piece of wood. She struck his wrist with all her strength. He howled and let go. "Shoot her!" another man shouted. But before the gun could fire, a shot echoed across the canyon, this one from far away, then another. The men cursed. "Rider coming! Fast!" "Forget the girl! Ward doesn't need to know." Hoofbeats thundered away until silence crept back over the wreck. Clara lay shaking, her breath thin and sharp, her leg bled freely. She was alone, broken and fading. Then she heard another set of hoofbeats, steady, controlled. A shadow fell across the broken coach. A man appeared at the torn door, framed by the cold sky. Broad shoulders, rough stubble, a scar cutting through one eyebrow. Luke Carver. He dropped inside the wreck, his boots crunching on debris. When he saw Clara, his eyes narrowed with concern, not greed. "Easy," he said. His voice was deep, steady. "I'm not with them." Clara wanted to answer, but she could barely breathe. Luke saw the blood on her thigh, the jagged metal that had torn into her flesh. "You're hurt bad," he said. I can walk," she whispered. She tried. She cried out and collapsed. Luke caught her before her head hit the floor, his strong arm behind her back. "Don't move," he said firmly. "You'll bleed out." Wind rattled the broken wood above them. Clouds rolled across the sky. Heavy, dark, threatening snow. Luke looked at her again. Fear in her eyes. Blood soaking her dress. Men hunting her. He made a choice. "My cabin is 2 miles north," he said. "I'm taking you there." He lifted her into his arms. Clara gasped at the pain, clutching his coat. Luke held her tight against his chest, steady and sure, and carried her out of the wreck, into the coming storm. She didn't know him. He didn't know her. But fate had just tied their lives together. The storm hit hard as Luke rode toward his cabin, with Clara held tight against him. The snow stung her cheeks, and every bump of the horse sent a sharp pain through her injured leg. She tried to stay awake, but the cold and shock pulled her down like deep water. Luke felt her grow heavier in his arms. Her head rested against his chest, and her breath came in quick, weak gasps. He leaned forward and tightened his hold around her, his arms forming a strong wall of heat against the freezing wind. "Stay with me," he muttered, though he wasn't sure she could hear him. By the time the cabin came into view, the world was white and fading. Luke jumped down from the saddle and lifted Clara into his arms as if she weighed nothing at all. Her eyes fluttered open for a second. Where are we?" she whispered. "Safe," Luke breathed. "You're safe now." Inside the cabin, the air was cold but still. Luke kicked the door shut and carried her straight to the bed. He laid her down gently, but she cried out when her leg moved. "I know," he said quietly. "I know it hurts." Quote, he lit the kerosene lamp. Warm yellow light filled the small room, showing the torn dress, the blood-soaked fabric, and the deep fear in Clara's eyes. He knelt beside the bed, rolling up his sleeves. His hands, big scarred hands, trembled slightly. He'd stitched cattle, horses, even dug his own bullet out once. But touching a woman like this, it felt different, too close, too intimate. "I have to clean the wound," he said. "It's the only way to stop the bleeding." Clara nodded, though fear tightened every muscle in her body. Luke took his knife and hesitated only a moment before cutting through the torn dress. The fabric fell away, exposing her pale thigh and the ugly, jagged tear across it. Clara turned her face toward the wall, shame burning hot beneath her skin. "I'm sorry," Luke murmured. "I'll be careful." He poured whiskey on a rag. The smell hit the air, sharp and painful. When he pressed the soaked cloth to her wound, Clara gasped and tried to pull away, but Luke steadied her with one strong hand on her hip. "Easy," he said. I know it hurts." Quote, he worked quickly, cleaning away dirt and blood. His focus was tight, his brow furrowed. Clara's breath hitched with every touch. She waited for the change, the shift in a man's breathing she had learned to fear, the hunger, the cruelty. But Luke's breathing stayed steady and controlled. And then it happened. Luke shifted his weight on the uneven cabin floor. His boots slipped, his hand jerked, and slid somewhere it shouldn't have. His palm brushed up her thigh, higher than he ever meant to touch, across soft, sensitive skin no stranger should ever feel. His fingers rested there for half a heartbeat, dangerously close to her inner thigh. Clara froze. Luke froze. Time stopped. Clara's eyes flew open, wide with shock. The touch was accidental. She felt that. It wasn't greedy or rough like Preston Ward's, but it was warm, too warm. And for the smallest, most frightening moment, something inside her sparked with a heat she didn't understand. Luke jerked his hand back, as if burned. I slipped," he stammered. His voice cracked. "Clara, I didn't mean—" His face turned red beneath the soot and lamplight. He backed up so fast he almost knocked over the basin. His shame filled the room, thick as smoke. "I swear I didn't mean to touch you like that," he said. "I'm not that kind of man." Clara stared at him. She had known men who enjoyed her fear, men who smirked when she trembled. Luke looked like he wanted the earth to swallow him whole. "It's all right," she whispered. Her voice trembled. "I know it was an accident." Luke swallowed hard, nodding as if he didn't believe he deserved her forgiveness. He forced himself to focus only on her wound, his hands working stiffly now, overly careful. He stitched her skin with quick, precise movements, keeping his eyes on the injury and nowhere else. "You're doing fine," he said softly as he tied the last knot. His voice was different now, gentler, but strained. He wrapped her leg in clean bandages and pulled the blanket up to her chin to give her back her dignity. When he stood, he backed away from the bed like it was a fire. "Try to sleep," he said. Clara watched him walk to the far corner of the cabin, spreading a quilt on the floor. He lay down fully clothed, facing the door, as far from her as he could get in the small space. The lamp flickered low. "Luke, thank you," she whispered. He didn't turn his head. He didn't trust himself to. "Get some rest," he said. Clara closed her eyes, her body aching, her heart pounding with fear, confusion, and something else she didn't dare name. Outside, the storm howled. Inside, two strangers lay in the dark, separated by 6 feet of wooden floor, and one accidental touch neither of them could forget. The storm outside finally faded, but neither Luke nor Clara slept much that night. Every time the wind rattled the window, Clara jolted awake, shaking from memories she couldn't escape. She dreamed of Ward's hands, Ward's voice, Ward's cruelty. Near dawn, she jerked upright with a strangled gasp. "No, no, please, don't." Before she could think, Luke was beside the bed. He didn't touch her, but his deep voice cut through her panic. "Clara, you're safe. I'm right here." Quote. She reached for him without seeing, grabbing his forearm like a lifeline. Her fingers clung to him hard enough to leave marks. Luke stayed still, letting her breathe in his steadiness. Slowly, her shaking eased. "It was just a dream," he said softly. "Just a dream." But to Clara, it never felt like just anything. When her breathing finally calmed, Luke returned to the floor. She heard him lie down again, but she knew he didn't sleep either. The cabin wasn't silent anymore. It was full of unsaid things. Morning brought cold sunlight and a sky unnaturally clear after the storm. Luke stepped outside early to fetch water and check on the cattle. Clara tried to sit up, but the pain in her leg made her gasp. Still, she managed to stand. She was halfway to the table when Luke walked back inside. "What are you doing?" he demanded. "I can walk." Clara's leg gave out. She fell forward with a cry, and Luke caught her in his arms. For a breath, they were pressed together, her face against his chest, his arms locked around her waist, their bodies fitting too well in the tiny space. Clara felt his heartbeat. Luke felt her warmth. Both froze. Her breath brushed his neck, his hold tightened without thinking. His eyes dropped to her lips. "Luke," she whispered. He nearly kissed her. He nearly forgot everything. But then he pulled away as if burned. He placed her back on the bed, his jaw tight. "You need to stay off that leg," he said gruffly. "Do you want the stitches ripping open?" Clara stared at him, cheeks flushed. She wasn't sure if the heat in her chest was shame or something else. Days passed. The cabin became too small for everything neither of them said. Luke worked outside until his hands bled, trying to silence the need inside him. Clara watched him through the window, feeling something she had not felt in a long time, safety and longing. At night, when Luke changed her bandages, the air grew tight. Clara tried to make it easier. "You have gentle hands," she whispered once. Luke stiffened, eyes locked on the bandage. "I have rancher hands." Nothing gentle about them. Clara shook her head. I know what cruel hands feel like. Yours aren't cruel. Quote. He didn't answer. He almost fled the cabin. But danger was already closing in. 3 days later, their world caught fire. The smell of smoke hit first. Then an orange glow lit the western sky. Luke burst out the door with a curse. Fire! They're burning us out! Ward's men. Clara didn't think. She ran after Luke with wet burlap sacks. The flames roared like a living beast, eating its way across the grass toward the cabin. Stay back! Luke shouted. I'm helping! They fought the fire side by side, beating at the flames with soaked sacks. Smoke filled their lungs. Heat scorched their skin. Clara's leg throbbed with every step, but she refused to stop. This was Luke's land, Luke's home, and now hers too, though she didn't dare say it. When the wind finally shifted, the fire died down, leaving the land black and ruined. Clara collapsed, coughing. Luke scooped her into his arms and carried her to the water trough. Their faces were inches apart. Ash streaked across their skin. His hands shook as he looked her over. Clara, are you hurt? Tell me, are you burned? No, she gasped. I'm all right. Luke's chest heaved. His eyes were wild. I thought I lost you, he whispered. Then something inside him broke. He grabbed her face in his hands and kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was born of fire and fear. Rough at first, desperate with relief. Clara answered the kiss with the same hunger, her hands gripping his shirt, pulling him closer. Luke softened, his lips moving slower, deeper, full of everything he had tried to hold back. Luke, she breathed. He carried her inside. He laid her on the bed, their bodies tangled in the dim red light of the stove's embers. His hands roamed her sides, her fingers tangled in his hair. Their breaths mixed. Their hearts pounded. He wanted her. She wanted him. He hovered above her, trembling, lost in her warmth. Take me, Clara whispered. Luke closed his eyes tight, fighting himself. His breath shook. I want you, he said, voice raw. God, Clara, I want you more than anything. Then don't stop. But he did. He braced his arms, pulling back just enough to see her face. Not like this, he whispered. Not in fear. Not because we almost died. I won't touch you like Ward did. I want to love you in the daylight, when you're safe, when you know I'm choosing you. Her eyes filled. No one had ever stopped for her. No one had ever protected her soul. You're not like them, she whispered. He lay beside her, pulling her into his arms. She cried quietly into his chest until sleep finally claimed them both. The fire had been no accident. The next morning, Luke found 3 cattle shot dead and a charred piece of leather stamped with Ward's brand. Clara stood beside him, cold dread twisting through her stomach. He'll keep coming, she whispered. Luke nodded. Something hardened in his eyes, a quiet, dangerous resolve. We're not running anymore, he said. Pack your things. We're going to town. To face Ward? She breathed. To end this, Luke answered. Clara took his hand. Then we go together. Side by side, they rode toward Bitter Creek, toward danger, judgment, and the man who wanted Clara dead. But this time, she wasn't running. She had Luke, and Luke would burn the world down before he let anyone take her.